Before he turned 12 years old, he had already tortured 7 children. By 14, he had killed 2. He would spend the next 58 years behind bars, 41 of them in complete solitary confinement. This is the story of Jesse Pomeroy, America's youngest serial killer and one of the most disturbing cases in criminal history. In 1874, Victorian Boston was a bustling city of progress and propriety. But beneath the surface of this respectable society, something evil was growing. Something that would challenge everything people believed about innocence, childhood, and the nature of evil itself. This is the complete story of Jesse Harding Pomeroy, the boy fiend of Boston. Jesse Pomeroy was born on November 29, 1859 in Charlestown, Massachusetts, to Thomas and Ruth Ann Pomeroy. From birth, Jesse was marked as different. His right eye was afflicted with a condition that left it milky white and clouded, giving him an unsettling, penetrating stare that unnerved everyone who looked at him. Children called him names, they mocked his appearance, they excluded him from games and friendships. Jesse grew up isolated, different, and increasingly angry at the world around him. His father, Thomas, was a violent alcoholic who regularly beat Jesse and his older brother, Charles. The household was filled with rage and brutality. When Jesse was around 10 years old, his mother, Ruth Ann, finally had enough. She left Thomas, taking Jesse and Charles with her to South Boston. But Ruth Ann had no idea that the abuse Jesse had endured had already planted something dark inside her youngest son, something that was about to emerge in the most horrifying way. It started in December 1871. Jesse was only 12 years old. A young boy named William Payne was found in a remote cabin in Chelsea, Massachusetts. He had been stripped naked, tied up, and brutally tortured. His body was covered in welts and cuts. He told police that an older boy with a funny white eye had lured him to the cabin, promising to show him something interesting. A month later, it happened again. 7-year-old Tracy Hayden was found in the same condition, stripped, bound, and beaten severely. He described the same boy with the milky white eye. Then came Johnny Balch, age 7. Then Joseph Kennedy, age 8. Then Robert Meyer. Then Harry Austin. Then Timothy Curran. 7 boys in total, all between the ages of 5 and 9, all tortured in increasingly sadistic ways. Jesse would lure them to isolated locations with promises of treats or interesting sights. Once alone, he would order them to strip naked. Then he would tie them up and torture them, beating them with sticks and belts, cutting them with knives, even biting chunks of flesh from their bodies. The attacks followed a pattern. They escalated. Each one was more violent than the last. Jesse was experimenting, learning, perfecting his methods, and he was enjoying it. Despite multiple witness descriptions of a teenage boy with a clouded white eye, police struggled to identify the perpetrator. In 1872, after the 7th attack, they finally connected the dots. They arrested 12-year-old Jesse Pomeroy. Jesse's arrest shocked Boston. A 12-year-old serial torturer? It seemed impossible. Many people simply couldn't accept that someone so young could be capable of such calculated cruelty. Jesse confessed to all 7 attacks with disturbing ease. He showed no remorse, no guilt. He spoke about the torture sessions with clinical detachment, as if describing something he'd read in a book rather than acts he'd committed with his own hands. Authorities were at a loss. There was no legal framework for dealing with a child this dangerous. Eventually, Jesse was sentenced to the State Reform School at Westboro, a juvenile facility where he would be held until his 18th birthday. Jesse's mother, Ruth Ann, believed her son could be reformed. She visited him regularly, convinced that with proper discipline and moral instruction, Jesse could be saved. But the authorities at Westboro had doubts. They noted that Jesse showed no improvement. He was cold, detached, and manipulative. The superintendent wrote that Jesse was morally deficient and warned he would kill if given the opportunity. After just 17 months, Jesse was deemed reformed and released early for good behavior. It was February 1874. Jesse Pomeroy was 14 years old, and he was free. Within weeks of his release, Jesse struck again. On March 18, 1874, a 10-year-old girl named Katie Curran entered the Pomeroy family's small shop in South Boston. Jesse's mother, Ruth Ann, had recently opened a dressmaking business to support the family. Katie had come to buy a notebook. Katie Curran was never seen alive again. Her family reported her missing immediately, but there were no leads, no witnesses, no body. Katie had simply vanished. Then, on April 22, 1874, just over a month after Katie's disappearance, a horrifying discovery was made in Dorchester Bay. The mutilated body of a 4-year-old boy named Horace Millen was found in a marsh. His throat had been slashed so deeply he was nearly decapitated. He had been stabbed repeatedly in the chest. And in a detail that shocked even hardened police officers, his genitals had been mutilated. Horace had last been seen walking with a teenage boy, a boy with a distinctive white eye. Police immediately went to the Pomeroy home. They questioned Jesse, who denied everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Witnesses had seen them together. Jesse had fresh cuts on his hands. Under interrogation, Jesse finally confessed. He admitted to luring Horace to the marsh, cutting his throat, and stabbing him. When asked why, Jesse gave an answer that still haunts criminologists today. "I couldn't help it." That was it. No rage, no explanation, just a chilling admission that he felt compelled to kill. But the horror wasn't over. During a search of the Pomeroy shop, police made a gruesome discovery. Hidden in the basement, stuffed behind a water closet, was the badly decomposed body of Katie Curran. She had been there for 2 months. Jesse had murdered her shortly after his release, hidden her body, and continued working in the shop, directly above her corpse, every single day. Jesse Pomeroy's trial became a national sensation. Newspapers called him the Boy Fiend. Spectators packed the courtroom, desperate to catch a glimpse of America's youngest murderer. Jesse's defense attorney argued that Jesse was insane, that no sane child could commit such acts. Expert witnesses testified about Jesse's moral insanity and homicidal mania. But the prosecution painted a different picture. They argued that Jesse knew exactly what he was doing. His careful planning, his ability to lie and manipulate, his efforts to hide evidence, all proved he understood right from wrong. The jury agreed. On December 10, 1874, Jesse Pomeroy was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was 14 years old. The judge sentenced him to death by hanging. Jesse showed no emotion. He simply nodded. But Boston was deeply divided. Could they really hang a 14-year-old boy? Many thought the sentence was too harsh. Others believed it was justice. The governor of Massachusetts faced enormous pressure. After much deliberation, he commuted Jesse's sentence to life in prison. But there was a condition. Jesse would spend the rest of his life in solitary confinement. For the next 41 years, Jesse Pomeroy lived completely alone. He was placed in a cell at the Charlestown State Prison. A tiny room with no windows, no human contact, no stimulation. For over 4 decades, Jesse saw no one but the guards who brought his food. He spoke to no one. He touched no one. Solitary confinement for 41 consecutive years remains one of the longest stretches of isolation in American prison history. Jesse spent his time reading. He taught himself multiple languages. He wrote poetry and essays. He maintained his innocence in Katie Curran's death, though he never denied killing Horace Millen. In 1917, after 41 years alone, Jesse was finally transferred to general population. He was 57 years old. Prison officials noted that he had become docile, almost gentle. He worked in the prison library and helped other inmates learn to read. But he never expressed genuine remorse. He never took full responsibility. When asked about his crimes in interviews, Jesse would say things like, "I was young," or "I don't remember clearly," always deflecting, always minimizing. Jesse Pomeroy spent 58 years in prison, longer than any other inmate in Massachusetts history at that time. On September 29, 1932, Jesse Pomeroy died in prison from heart failure. He was 72 years old. He had spent more time behind bars than he had ever spent free. To the end, Jesse remained a mystery. Psychologists who studied his case found no clear answers. Was he born evil? Was it the abuse from his father, the bullying from other children? Or was it something deeper, something broken in his brain that made him fundamentally different from other human beings? Modern psychologists believe Jesse likely had psychopathy, a neurological condition characterized by lack of empathy, shallow emotions, and a compulsion for stimulation, even through violence. His early torture of animals, his escalating violence, his complete lack of remorse, all fit the profile perfectly. Jesse Pomeroy's case changed American criminal justice forever. It raised uncomfortable questions about juvenile offenders, about rehabilitation versus punishment, about whether some people are simply beyond saving. His story reminds us of a dark truth. Evil doesn't always announce itself with horns and a pitchfork. Sometimes it comes with the face of a child. Jesse Pomeroy was America's youngest convicted serial killer, a title he held for over a century. His crimes shocked Victorian society and continue to disturb us today. He was 14 when he killed. He was 72 when he died. And in all those years, he never truly explained why he did what he did. Some mysteries have no answers. Some evil has no explanation. If you want more deep dives into history's most disturbing killers, follow Scream Index. Explore the darkest corners of human nature. If you dare, thanks for watching.